What's going on, guys? This is Jacob from Team Mambo, bringing you guys a quick deck profile here on the Code Talker archetype, the deck that finally got all of its support out of Tomb Chaos a couple weeks ago. This deck is really good, actually. I think it's a very rogue viable deck, not quite as good as Salamangreat, but I've always compared it to being sort of a little bit better version of Heroes, and I'll show you guys why real quick. So let's go ahead and get started. So basically this deck is just good Cyberses deck. So you're going to see 3 Lady Debug as your best play starter since it can search almost every single monster in the deck. Its best target here is the Microcoder, so this is one of the new cards we got. Now all of the code monsters can be used as link material from hand for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, and then they all get extra effects when they are used as a link material. Microcoder here can add a Signet, spell, and trap card, or trap card I should say, from your deck to your hand when it's used as a link material. If it's sent from the field, you can actually add a level 4 or lower Cybers from your deck to your hand, or I think it is just a hard level 4, and we also have 2 Parallel Exceeds. So from here on out, all you're going to see are pretty much generic Cybers extenders. I play 2 because you search this in the combo with the Signet Codec, and we'll get to how good that card is in a minute. But the third one, the thing is, if you're playing 3 and you open 2, that one is pretty dead. So what I wanted to do is replace the third copy with just another good generic Cybers extender. So that's the only reason I played 2. Of course, it does make the brick even worse when you open both, but that is what it is. From here on out, it's only going to be one of, so we do have Code Radiator, Code Generator. Generator, again, these both can be used from hand for the link summon of a Code Talker. Generator, when used, can Foolish Burial a Cybers. Your usual targets are things like Dotscaper, Sea Archiver, and depending on how good your hand is, you can send Nightmare Corruptor Ibli to bring it back later and then soft lock your opponent out of summoning, since this deck can U-Link like crazy. This deck is insanely consistent at being able to U-Link your opponent going first. And then Radiator, when used as a link material, can target a monster in the field, negate its effects, zero out its attack, which doesn't come up too often, but is still useful considering how good this deck actually is at OTKing. From here we have Balancer Lord, pretty much your second best normal summon. What's nice is you can pay the 1,000 and then you don't actually need to summon right away. You just get that extra additional normal as sort of a blanket effect, I guess, so that's always really useful. We have Salamangreat Gazelle and Spinny. Now, normally in the combo, it's very common that you make Salamangreat Balinks, because believe it or not, Salamangreat Sanctuary is really important for the soft lock in this deck, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So if you do make the Balinks, it's pretty easy to get either of these 2 to go off, and even better if you open Gazelle, since you can then special summon it, and then send Spinny, and that gives you 2 free extenders right there. Then we have Cybers Converter, Backup Secretary. These summon for free from hand for pretty much no condition other than you just need to control Cybers. Then we have Link Infraflyer, Cross Debug, Gachiri Ad Ignister. These all summon from hand but have somewhat of a condition. Gachiri, you need to target a Cybers monster you control, negate its effects. Cross Debug, you do need to control at least 2 Link monsters, and Infraflyer has to summon specifically to a Link monster's point, but they are still, for the most part, pretty free extenders. Gachiri is also nice, I want to point out, because it also has a continuous effect where the first time your Cybers monsters will be destroyed by card effect, they're just not, which can come up definitely in a little bit more difficult game states where you weren't able to just U-Link your opponent out of the game or just blow them out going second with Access Code Talker. And we have Dotscaper, Sea Archiver. These are, again, a little bit more conditional. Sea Archiver you do need something to be summoned to a link point. You can summon from hand or graveyard then. And then Dotscaper, when it's sent to graveyard, you can special summon it, or when it's banished, you can special summon it, which is great. This is pretty much your second best target for Code Generator, depending on how good or bad your hand is. Cybers Gadget, this is a good recovery tool since it can reborn a monster from the graveyard, which level 2 or lower Cybers from the graveyard, but since you're almost always getting Microcoder off, it always has a target. It also gives you a token when it's linked off, which can give you more extenders, and is also pretty useful for late game or later in the combo where you can special summon it off of things like Code Talker Inverted, and the token can be free material for Talkback Lancer to complete the U-Link, but we'll get to that in a minute. Then we have Ibli, like we said, this can set up a soft lock similar to the Nightmare extra links that you would see back in like Doki format and stuff like that. Not quite as powerful, but similar. And then we just rounded off with 3 Ash just for having hand traps, just generically good cards. and 3 Signet Codec. So this is the best card in the deck. This is what makes the deck run. When a Code Talker monster is link summon, you target it, and then you add a Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand with the same attribute. Now, you can only add 1 attribute per turn. So if you add a dark attribute off of the normal Code Talker, you can't add any more dark attributes off of this card specifically. But in the normal combo, you're going to add everything except a water and fire, and we saw how good just the generic extenders are in this deck. So this card is absolutely insane. It is extremely broken, and then even if your play gets stopped, if you're able to get this card to go off next turn, you're pretty much able to rebuild your entire board more times than not. And we also play 3 Signet Mining, generic Cyberse Searcher. It's also searchable off of Microcoder if you open Signet Codec, which is always useful in case you just need that 1 extra piece. Called by the Grave. Hand traps don't hurt this deck too bad, but it's just nice to have a tool that can beat them just because you are a very combo-heavy deck. Also, it's always a good card to set. It almost always finds a use in that scenario. And then we have the Sanctuary. Like we said, this is actually a fairly important part of the combo. And then Monster Reborn, which again is just basically an extender, can help you complete the U-Link. It can also be a recovery tool because Monster Reborn on Transcode Talker is actually really good. Signet Conflict, this card is crazy. It's actually a Solemn Judgment and a Called by the Grave all in one. So when a spell or trap card effect, or a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated, while you control a Code Talker, negate the activation, banish the card, and then they cannot activate cards with the same original name for the rest of the turn. So it is Solemn Judgment and Called by the Grave, and it banishes the card. Unfortunately, we live in an era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where counter traps like this are still played as 1, and the only reason I even play 1 is because it's searchable off Microcoder. And then we round the deck out with, again, good generic hand trap, 3 infinite impermanents. Getting into the extra deck, we will start with the Link ones. We'll kind of just go through them in order because I like to be organized. Baylinks, Link Cross, Talkback. So Baylinks, like I said, is important to the combo to get Sanctuary, and these 2 are your nice Link ones that you end on to complete the extra Link, and they don't point up or anything like that, so you don't have to risk giving your opponent any points. Link 2s, you have the generic Code Talker. This is pretty much your starter, and this is what you want to go into with Microcoder off of Debug or something like that, or any normal summon, and that can get you Codec and get you started. We also have Inverted, which is a nice extender. Good tip here is if you have Inverted, a Cyberse in hand, and then Codec, you can Chainlink one Inverted, which will special summon a Cyberse to either of its points, which is left or right. Codec will fire in Chainlink 2, so you can add a Cyberse to hand, and then you can special summon it to its points, similar to like B and C Dragon from ABCs back in the day. Then we have Splash Mage, nice generic extender, just a free monster born from the graveyard. And Update Jammer, I don't really need to tell you why we play that. And then, almost forgot, IP. It doesn't really come up much. It is nice to sometimes, after you go first and your opponent just passes, you can just go straight into IP, straight into Access Code Talker, pointing to a transcode, so that access code is untargetable and immune to destruction. Then for Link 3s, we have Transcode Talker, best extender in the deck. And we also have Xcode Talker, which is pretty much just there for, it's just a win Code Talker, so that's how you search the Parallel Exceed in the combo off of Signet Codec, and you kind of go from there. It does give destruction protection to things that it points to, and 500 attack, which is fairly useful. In the normal combo, you give them an Ibly, and you close off a zone, so they can only play with 3 monster zones, which is like fine, but rarely comes up. Link 4s, Zeraboros, Crusadia Mekk-Knight Avermax, which I think a lot of people forget is a Cyberse. And then, of course, the boss himself, Access Code Talker, which is the ultimate finisher for pretty much every deck in the game now, but even better in this deck considering you have so many different attributes that you go through in a normal combo. So, real quick, I've been talking about the locks, so let me guys kind of show you what that looks like. So we'll need you, there, and then we need 2 Link 1s, so we'll have these 5 cards out. And we'll also have 2 tokens because of Link Cross. And now a lot of people always bring up like, well, why would you give yourself tokens? Doesn't that make you more open to evenly matched and things like that? And it really doesn't, because you're going to give them the Nightmare Corruptor Ibly. So pretending the Ibly is on the opponent's side here, but if they have the Ibly, they cannot special summon except Link monsters, but they can't Link summon because you've U-Linked them. So they either have to Tribute Summon it or they have to Crash it. So they can swing into your Avermax, But then Sanctuary here can zero out your monster's attack, and then if you don't know, when two monsters with 0 attack points attack each other, nothing happens, no monster dies, no damage is taken, so the ability has to stay on the board there. What's also nice about this is since you've given them a monster face up, they can't Lightning Storm, they can't evenly match you. If they wait too long and they wait for this to hit the board because they just kind of forget, they can't Nibiru you either. The only way they're getting rid of this is by any random card effect or tribute summoning. So it's a nice little soft lock for sure, and then you also have to consider Xcode is locking off this zone across from Link Rust, so they only have 3 zones to use. Next turn you can just link the 2 tokens here into IP like we said, and then link pretty much any of these off. You can link these 2 off and then go into the access code talker here, which is then just game from that point on, as you have more than enough attack points here. And also Avermax is just a good enough card in and of itself. And this board is also quite sticky, so I compared it to Heroes. The reason I think it's better is because you do get the soft lock with Ibly, and then there is some protection. So Xcode does give destruction protection, Transcode gives targeting protection, and then Avermax protects himself, of course. But that is why I kind of make that comparison. It's kind of a convoluted, long combo deck that ends on a good board, but it doesn't end on, you know, like an Adamantipator board. You're not locking them strictly out of the extra deck with Buster Whelp. I mean, you technically are, but you're not full on locking them out of the game or have any negates or anything like that unless you search conflict. So that is the Code Talker deck, or the Cyberse, good Cyberse deck. If you guys want me to show you exactly how to do this combo, just leave it in a comment down below. I'd love to kind of run through the steps. Problem is it would take too long for me to tack on to this already too long video. So like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you check out Team Mambo on Facebook and subscribe to the Twitch here. Then you can check me out at twitch.tv/MamboYugioh, and I hope to see you guys there soon. Have a good one.